like the longest distance or the longest time that you've been on a track?
So it was actually this past season. I get there. I think it was a rifle shot, gut shot, and it was guts hanging type deal. Like he said, I saw guts hanging. And I'm like, easy peasy. A gut hanging is the easiest deer track. So we get there. They're pissed drunk. They're walking, doing like we did, like walking me down the trail. Oh, he went this way. I'm like, we just walk. Can y'all just go back to the truck and leave me alone? Yeah. I mean, we can. I'm like, thank you.
Well, hey, everybody, welcome back to the Hunter's Advantage podcast. Today, we're joined by a special guest, Ricky Loftis. Thanks for jumping on with us, man.
You bet. Anytime. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we got a nice wall back there. Did you have some trouble getting to the podcast today with that North Texas traffic?
Man, it is crazy what's happening over here around north of DFW, man. It is a wild. Places I would have never thought there'd be traffic is backed up half a mile, and I'm like, I've got to move. I got to move north to Oklahoma or west towards Wichita Falls or something. I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, it's brutal. Do you know anything about like Texoma? Like how is it growing out there at all?
On the east side, like towards Sherman and stuff. Yeah, there's like dude, they're putting in a casino on one side, and then like, what is it? Margaritaville, like hotel and some crazy stuff in Pottsboro, which is just kind of on on the southeast side of the lake, and it's going to be in that the tollway that runs from Dallas runs all the way up there. So it's going to be like the next new little lake getaway type place, and it's supposed to be a huge deal.
I'm assuming the casino's on the Oklahoma side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Choctaws back at it again.
Yeah, this one's going to be in between Choctaw and Windstar, so it'll be the next new one.
I drive through Dallas just quite a bit getting to Oklahoma because I'm here in Central Texas, and it's funny the Choctaws they advertise like a mother up and down I-35.
Oh, like dude, hundreds of miles away too.
Like your paradise awaits. I'm like, I'm in Waco. What the frick?
Yeah.
Like this
got 3 hours. Even closed.
It's weird. Yeah. Well, man, we appreciate you jumping on, like I said. But I think where we wanted to start is to get a little bit more of your kind of background, just kind of familiarize you with the audience. So, how did you kind of grow up hunting, or how did you kind of get into all this?
Yeah, definitely grew up hunting. My dad took me everywhere when I was a kid. I have 2 sisters, and I'm the middle boy, and so I went hunting. Anytime he went, I went. And I was pretty fortunate because so at the time he was into commercial real estate. Well, at this time you could like kind of swoosh people and like, hey, you want to buy this property? We'll take you deer hunting and stuff. So when I was young, I was really spoiled. I got to go to some really cool places and hunt. Always had good bird hunting, and but dad always took me. So that's where I got started with that. I think I killed my first deer when I was 6 or 7, and then just wheels off after that.
So did you first start with like a rifle, or did you jump right into bow hunting?
A single shot 30-30, baby.
Hey, 30-30s. That's a good caliber.
Yeah.
I don't know much about guns and stuff, but growing up I had like a little lever action 30-30. Well, it was my dad's, but that thing was a killer. Shot a spike right in the face, and ever since then, I was like, "There's something to this."
It'll drop them, that's for sure.
Yeah, that is a good caliber. So, how did you? You said you grew up obviously hunting, kind of north of DFW, and you like to obviously track deer and stuff with dogs and hog hunt. Now, were you kind of always involved with the dog side of it? Did your dad into that, or was that kind of a later in life thing?
No, dad wasn't into that. I had a really, really good lab growing when I was probably 14 to probably 17. He didn't make it 3 or 4 years and just had how the good ones die young kind of deal. Had a really good dog then, and that kind of got me into the dog stuff. But the deer tracking stuff I first witnessed when I was down in Kingsville. I I went to school my freshman year. I went to Stephen F. Austin over in East Texas, and I was going to do a wildlife management degree. And it just so happened like you have to have an internship somewhere to finish your degree plan. Well, I made it a year, and I had a buddy that just so happened to be down at the King Ranch and had an internship. Well, whenever it was his time to leave and get back to college, he was like, "Hey, I think I can get you in the door over here. You need an internship. You might as well just knock it out." And I'm in what better place, you know? So I packed up when I was 19. The summer when I was 19, I went down there and I guided deer hunts, nilgai hunts, duck hunts, and basically I was a feeder queen. That's all I did was fill feeders every single day and look for deer every single day. They didn't put me on any good like I got to take like management buck hunts. I didn't get to take any kind of trophy hunts. There were some amazing deer that got taken, like the other, the older guys that had been there for a long time were taken on. But really, I was down there just living the dream, and I lived on the ranch. I had a ranch pickup. We had a silo that was right next to the house that you filled with corn, and that's all I did every day was go and feed roads and look for big deer, look for pigs, and 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 basically whenever season started, I was guiding. Well, you know how it is. You got guys. The way you hunt on there is basically out of a truck. It's safari style. There is no real stands on the stuff we were allowed to hunt. It was predominantly just you feed the road, sit back on a sendero, look, figure something out. You might stalk in and get them, but a lot of times you're just shooting out a truck.
Hmm.
Um, and anyways, we had several wounded deer, quite a bit, and we had a couple guys that we'd call with dogs to come track. So that was when I first got to see it, and we probably used a dog 5 or 6 times, and they were all different kinds of dogs. Several different fellows that came and helped. Um, but what had happened is I had finished up my internship, left there, came home, and that very next year I shot a really big deer and I couldn't find it. So I was like, I'm never gonna have that problem ever again. So that's when I started doing I got dogs and got going on it.
Dude, getting a at 19 internship at the King Ranch is like, hey, I like bow hunting. I'd like to get an internship. And Tim Wells is like, all right, cool. I'll show you a little something. Like that's like
Exactly.
creme de la creme. No, I was saying, getting an internship on the King Ranch is like the creme de la creme. I mean, were you just starstruck when you went down there for the first time?
Dude, it's still looking back is unbelievable. Like you don't grasp the sheer size of the place. Like I was there, I would probably on a regular day, I'd put 150 miles on a truck off road, like on Caliche roads. Like you get into that ranch, you can drive for hours and hours and hours and never get to a blacktop or you'd be on the ranch the entire time. Like you get so like on my hunts, they'd be like, "Hey, you've got a cold buck hunt tomorrow. You've got this pasture, and this pasture." And I'm like, "Okay, that pasture's 10,000 acres. That pasture's 7, and the other pasture's 3. That's my day. You got 20 something thousand acres to hunt by yourself."
That's wild. So when you say management hunt, what's a management buck there? Because
So the cull buck was up to 130, and then management was 130 to 150, and it technically was supposed to be an 8 point or a 9 point. If it got to a 10 point, you had to tell them, "Hey, this is a 10 point, and it might cost a little bit more."
okay, well, that's wild. What's the biggest one that you were able to get on down there?
Myself, I had a couple really good. Like I had a 9 point that was like right at 150. Well, I actually was like almost got in trouble with it. Like we shot him and walked up, and my boss had showed up. This was actually one that we had used a dog on, And I had told him what had happened. The guy shot it straight guts. I knew just watching the reaction of the deer. I mean, I knew it was gut shot. So we had backed out. Well, I had called the dog guy and we were going to go back at lunch. Anyways, the boss man was like, "Hey, do I find that deer?" "Yeah, yeah, we're over here at this spot." "Okay, I want to come see it." Well, we walk up to this deer and I'm like, "Oh no, like this one might be a little too big." Like I was
No, you're
sweating
saying, "Oh
bullets.
yes." You're like, "Nice."
Well, my guy was pumped, right?
Yeah, your guy's like,
He
"Hell
was
yeah."
fired up, dude. It was a really good, it was a slick 9 point, and it was super heavy, like way heavy. There's really heavy deer down there, but this one was just exponentially, heavy. So I was I was like, oh my gosh, and he was like, you have to. So you kill a deer, you score it, you age it, you go take it to the locker, you got to weigh it, you have to fill out this whole sheet and turn in for their wildlife program. So my boss was like, "Well, I'm here. I'll go ahead and score it." And I'm like, "Oh, I mean, I got it." He's like, "No, no, no. I want to kind of see. I'm kind of curious." And I'm like, and he tallied it up, and it was, I want to say it was like, it literally was 149 and 6/8 or something stupid. Like it was right there. Which if it had been 151, whatever, it wouldn't have been that big of a deal. But my boss was giving me a hard time, and I was
Yeah.
sweating bullets because it's weird whenever you've got a split second to judge this deer, make sure he's mature, make sure he scores where you want him to be, and then tell the hunter to shoot, and then make a good shot. It's kind of rough when you're driving around doing it. It's not like you're sitting in the stand watching a deer for 30 minutes, being able to judge. You got to be kind of quick. So it was it was it was scary, but also awesome because that we were all pretty pumped after he measured it, and it was like
Yeah.
perfect, older deer. It was cool.
So do you keep like a nail file in your kill kit or something like
Yeah,
that, or?
you got a pair of channel locks. Yeah,
Yeah. That's
This
awesome.
9 is now an 8.
yeah.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Did you have some clients that had to sit there and watch some absolute magnums just
Oh
walk by
yeah.
that weren't in their price range?
Oh yeah. And it's not even the price range for a lot of these guys. You have to go through like a series of cull buck hunts, management hunts to get to the trophy hunts. So like these guys are coming, shooting whatever we tell them to, and like the- it's almost like you have to go through the ranks to get to the trophy status because there's only so many trophy bucks a year. And so these guys, really, the guys that are shooting culls and management, some of them are there because that's what they're after, but a lot of them are just paying their dues to where they jump up the ladder to the trophy deer.
Mm. So it's almost like an interview process that you have
It
to like
really is.
progressively get through to be able to hunt trophy bucks on the king.
That's how it was when I was there. It was almost like a process where you weren't just gonna come out of the streets and to start trophy deer hunting. Like the guys that are on the list usually pay to hunt it every year, right? But if a guy comes off the trophy list, then somebody can bump up. Well, they're not going to just let anybody just come bump up. It's like a trial and error kind of deal, and it's way different all over the king. Like there's a lot of it's leased out to these huge, corporations. The stuff that we got to hunt was called the family land, and it was stuff that was guided or hunted by the family or employees of the king. So I didn't get to just, a lot of that stuff, like you drive through, see a deer the year after, and I'm like looking on the map, oh, we're on a different lease, like this isn't our land to hunt. And guys like, what about that? What about that? No, we're on somebody's lease. Like we got to keep driving.
Mm.
So
So did you see any bucks out there that just took your breath away that you're like, that's not a free range deer? There's no way.
they had a deer picked out when I got there. And he's like, hey man, because I got there probably early August, and he's like, yeah, old Oompa Loompa's back. And I was like, what? And my buddy that was down there, he's like, dude, wait till you see this deer. And I was like, okay. And he kind of showed me a picture in velvet, and he was a 7x7, typical, not a single crash point on him. And so I say he was a 7x7. He might have been a 6x7, whatever it was. He wasn't a 10. He was a 12 or a 14, typical. And it was like the first day, my buddy, we went out feeding roads and filling feeders, and that sucker came out. I looked at him and I looked up and I was like, he goes, that's Oompa Loompa. And I was like, what in the world? Well, so I got to, so we had a big high paying client that was coming opening day because he wanted to shoot the deer in velvet, and he was holding his velvet pretty late. Like we were up till opening day, like the day before, and he still had his velvet. So I was going, and I was going between these two feeder setups, and I got to go. I was sitting in the setups because they didn't have cell cams then. This was 2008, I think, 2009, something like that. So if there was, we didn't have them. We were actually going and sitting in the stands and watching for the deer. Well, we had them lined up. I never saw them in the stand, but we would rule out the stand that I was on that night or whatever. Anyways, guy came in opening day, literally flew in on the jet, landed at noon, got in the stand by 4, and then shot the deer at like 5.
And what was he?
And I think it went 197 as a typical 6x6, 6x7, like typical.
That's wild. That's wild. That's the kind of hunting I kind of want to do sometimes. Is where I'm just like, all right, give me
Just
1
flying on a
hour in the
jet.
stand, and then I shoot a 190 and I walk home. Every now and then that would make me feel all right.
I wouldn't be opposed to it.
So with all that abundance of land, granted, we've talked to a guy or two that is pretty familiar with hunting the King and Kennedy Ranch and stuff like that. Did you guys encounter any poachers out there?
I did not, but I'd always heard the stories of Charles Beatty and I think there was another one that was kind of well known, and they had a bunch of pretty cool stories. So the King has their own police staff. Like
Okay.
they have their own, like they actually, like the division that's in Kingsville, the Santa Gertrudis part, there's a town. Like they got their own store and everything, their own school. Everybody that works there lives on the ranch and they go to their own school and stuff. So
Huh.
on top of that, they have their own police. So the police were always, they were always looking for them, but they also had game wardens, and helicopters are huge down there. So that was always with a tool in their toolbox. So I heard the stories. I never ran into any of them. I got my boss chewed my butt one day. I pulled up to the gate and accidentally hit the feeder. We had the tailgate feeders, right? You drive, could shoot out the back. I got out and slung, 5 pounds of corn at the gate, and he was like, "Are you kidding me?" And I was like, "What?" He's like, there's like 180-inch deer that lives 400 yards from here, right? And I'm like, "Well, I mean, yeah, I guess. I didn't mean to." I mean, he was like genuinely mad at me. He was like, "There's going to be poachers that drive by here every night. Like, you have to
Oh,
be." He was mad that there was going to be corn right there and might lead, because so the way a lot of the ranch was set up, they make it as thick as they possibly can by the fence by the road, so you can't see into the property.
that's
And then
smart.
they'd have a road that was 100 yards inside the place, and that would kind of perimeter some of the properties. But a lot of that places where I was hunting, you couldn't see into the ranch. Even if you were right on the highway, it's just straight mesquite bush. So
Hmm.
I mean, I get it. Like, thankfully, I've never been tempted with a deer that's just like, kind of pick your jaw up off the floor where, you have
yeah.
a gun. It might be a little bit on the other side of the fence. Like, I've never been tempted like that. I couldn't imagine being neighbors with the King and Kennedy. I might have a few more charges under my
Oh,
belt, but
I'm glad I've never been tempted. You're right.
yeah.
That'd be brutal. So you talked about how you you saw your first blood track
Yeah.
down on the king when you were interning down there. What about that experience kind of stood out or interested you?
Well, we put the deer on the tailgate, so it was like a deer that we couldn't find. I think there might have been one deer that outran us, a deer that wasn't mortally hit, but 3 or 4 of them, we found and were able to get another bullet in or found him dead, and it was like, you got a guy that's coming and paying God knows how much money. Now, obviously, he screwed up and didn't make a great shot, but there are extenuating circumstances where you make a good shot and they don't bleed or whatever. And just the fact that we exhausted all our measures and this dog comes in and just gone. And they're like, he's 400, 500, 600. There he is, 700, found it. You're like, what? How in the world is that even possible? With no blood on the ground.
So
So
they just let him go.
yeah, that's what I do too in Texas. But I mean, you just put the collar on them and let them go do their thing.
Dude, I have a dog that if you open the front door, he might be splattered in the road. Like he's probably not coming home. So I can't, like, when people even talk about letting their dog off a leash in the woods, I'm like, will they ever come home?
Yeah, there's a lot to that too. That's why I've usually got my Garmin in one hand and then I have Onyx on my phone in the other. And I'm like, okay, we're at this fence. Do we have permission there? Yes. Okay, we can keep going. Oh, there's a highway coming up. Buzz, stop what you're doing. Let me get there. So the dog's tone broke, what I call it, or what we call it. If he's getting near a highway, I can hit the button, it tones, he hears it, he stops in his tracks and comes back. So if I'm watching and paying attention, we hit a property line or a highway or something that I don't like, I'll stop him. I'll go maybe put a leash on him, check the situation, or see if we can get permission, or cross the highway with him on a leash. Like I'll go look at the road. Hey, there's blood on the road. We're good on the other side of the road. We'll go and I'll cross with him. So that's a big deal, is having a handle on your dog and being able to do that stuff, because I mean, the dog's going to hunt. He don't care where the deer went. You know what I mean? And these deer will go across a road, down a road, into a neighborhood, cross a lake, like fly for death for them.
Yeah. Man, one of the things that me and Jake talk about quite a bit is all the deer probably about 2020 that maybe 2021 that we lost that we know were dead. Like
Yeah.
deader than a doornail. And I'm just like, well, I'm out of
Mhm.
blood, 7-foot tall grass. He's gone.
Yeah.
This sucks. And we found one. When was it, Jake? We found one like 2 years ago that we had shot like 3
think
years
it
before.
was
And we knew he was dead.
2022. Yeah.
Yeah.
When we
How
it
far
was
were
good.
y'all from where you lost him?
What, 200 yards? Less?
If
Yeah.
that, inside 150, I think. But it's just situations like that, because easily, like, granted, we couldn't find the blood, but from what we witnessed the last 2 times, we have a deer camp kind of in southeast Oklahoma, and luckily we know some pretty good trackers down there, and they've helped us probably 2-3 years in a row. And our buddy Jake Ayers, I don't want to call him out, but he made a good shot, just didn't bleed, and we were finding like little pin drops of blood, and then sooner or later it just completely dried up. But from what they were saying, they don't even use, the smell from the blood or anything like that. Something about like a interdigital gland or something like that is from what they were tracking by. And it was
Yep.
amazing watching those dogs work.
Yeah, it's pretty wild what they're capable of, especially if you set them up for success. Like, weather plays a big problem with tracking, especially early season for a lot of these, dogs. You're not going to go out at noon when the humidity is 20, when I can wait till 7 p.m. and the humidity be 50, and make that track easier for the dog. But I mean, it's wild what they're capable of. I mean,
Is it the moisture that makes it easier
mhm.
for them to track? How does that?
Yeah.
See, that doesn't make any sense to me, because I think about rain and I'm like, I would think the scent would be gone, but they're like, no, this is great. I love when it rains.
No, I think it has to do with the humidity and sometimes like the pressure too. Like it keeps scent down, and if it's dry and arid, the scent is up. And I mean, there's all kind of science into it. I don't really know all the exact details, but wet is good. Wet, high humidity. Not, you don't want it to be too humid, but like you get below 30% humidity, it's getting tough on those dogs. Like there are dogs that have better noses than others, but if I can wait till I get 40 plus, then it's way better. Or if there's like if I can get there in the morning, say it's October and it's still getting 80 degrees, the deer was shot the night before. If I can get there in the morning when that dew's on the ground, that dog will fly down the track because it's wet, it's keeping an scent down. As soon as that dew's gone, we're playing hell. Like it gets tough.
He was asking what kind of dogs do you typically use?
What I'm using now is a crossed up hound dog. I mean, it's part hound, part cur dog with some little stuff mixed in. I couldn't even tell you exactly, but it's you know, for what we do in Texas, we lead and you want a dog that has some leg and can run, So we don't necessarily need like a super super cold nose. So like a straight hound, like a blue tick or a walker or something like that would have a colder nose than the dog that I have. But since we're tracking stuff usually inside 24 hours, don't technically need that. You almost would rather cross it up with a cur dog that's got a little bit more grit maybe and that and all that stuff's everybody has their opinions on on breeds and what they're capable in and stuff. But what I'm running is half hound, half cur, give or take.
Gotcha. Have you always ran those, or is that just kind of like here recently?
No, so I ran through a couple dogs before I found a dog that would do this. I had a blue lacy at first, and the dog was worthless. And then I had another cross lacy that was a lacy plot, absolutely worthless. And then I got this lucky enough to get this dog that I have now. And like I said, I was really, really fortunate to get a hold of him, and he's been holding the ground since 2016, I think, 2017.
Heck yeah.
So he's getting older. He's getting up there, and I've been training dogs behind him, and just haven't found a dog that can do what he can do. So I'll have a dog every year that I try and end up getting rid of or something.
Mhm.
So
So
some of them are just naturals at it, and other ones just can't pick it up at all, even in the same breed.
yeah, oh yeah, you could have a litter mate not do the same thing. It's really there's a drive, number one, like a prey drive. Of course, some of these deer run and they've got to be able to chase them down and stop them. And then the other deal is having the brains. I think there's a lot of brains that goes into a deer tracking dog because it's not like a hog dog is different. You're tracking an animal that not dying, number one, and number two hasn't been chased across the county by some hillbilly in a rifle. So, deer will do wild things when they've got pressure. If you're walking tracking a deer and you bump them, dude, that deer might go swim across a lake just to get you off his scent. You know what I mean? So you got to have brains with a deer dog, and that's that's pretty few and far between. Like you might have like I've had dogs that would run and chase one and bay one really good, but didn't have the brains to get through other situations or have the nose. It's always like I've got nose or I've got grit, I've got this, and I haven't had it all except for the dog that I have right now. He's got it all. So, but I've got two dogs that are coming up below him, and one of them is actually a relative that's would I guess be a niece to him, to my main dog that I'm pretty excited about. So hopefully this year I can get another dog that's at least taking some of the easier tracks for the dog, my huck dog he's getting older. So I'd like to run the easy gut shots and stuff like that with the younger dogs, and then let him scratch out the hard ones that have been festered.
You see, you told me before this, the majority of the tracks that you have are archery tracks. What are some of the common mistakes that people have when tracking a deer before they call in a dog? Is it just tracking too far, or running it too long, or what are the things that can kind of bugger it up and mess it up?
Most of the time, too soon. They're going too soon. Um, I like What I always tell guys is if you have made it 200 yards and you do not have a dead deer, something's wrong. Most of the time it's closer than that, but I'll go to 200. If you don't find a dead deer in 200 yards, you need to be thinking about your options. And you're there probably too early. Two, you probably going to need a dog. And three, it's not hit where you think it is. Because a double long deer, a long heart, one of those animals is generally not going to make it 200 yards.
Yeah.
And how many times, let's say you get a phone call, you go to meet up with them, and they kind of explain where they think they got hit at. I guess percentage wise, how often are they wrong where it's like not usually in the same spot?
Every time.
Every
No, not every time, but most of the time. I mean, and it's no fault to their own. I mean, I get to look at hundreds of arrows a year and blood on the ground and stuff. I've gotten really good at. To me, like if they've been shot with a bow, I want to see the arrow. And they're like, well, what are you looking at? There's so many things on an arrow that you can see that, or I can see that most people don't. Um, So when when I get an archery shot, I want to see a picture of the arrow. Blood on the ground is cool. I mean, if you can see some little gut matter in the blood, then okay, it rules it out. It's a gut shot. Or if it's like a dark blood, it could be liver shot. But there are the blood on the ground deal. If it's been there for 30 minutes and it gets dry, it's going to look darker. So the blood on the ground to me is not as important as looking at that arrow. In an arrow, especially crossbow bolts, can be deceiving occasionally. But most of the time I can look at a fletchings on an arrow and tell you where a deer's hit. And then combine that with the story, the deer's reaction, and then what they've done. So but that's like I said, I think I've been doing it for like 10 years now or so. So I've been able to kind of figure that part out. And I probably sound like an interrogator when people call me, but I want to know because it really deducts on when I'm going, how long I'm waiting, all those aspects. Or if I've got another track I'm going to go to first before this one. So a lot of that stuff goes into looking at that and getting to all the questions that I need to hear or answered.
Something just popped in my head real quick that I think would be a pretty good, clip if we were able to break it down. There's a lot of people that seems like they would say 8 to 12 hours for a gut shot. And there's some people that say no less than 24 hours for a gut shot. And then just certain sections of the deer. Would you mind kind of going through those just off the top of your head and kind of seeing like what the arrow would look like, and then also how long that you would wait?
It's going to be long if you're ready for it.
Hey, let's hear it.
Okay. uh Sounds like a deer that's shot for, we'll just start from the front of the deer.
That's fine.
A neck shot or a brisket shot, but up here is going to be a bright red blood. You're going to get a pass through. The arrow is going to be usually will be blood soaked, but not just coated. And sometimes there'll be like a white fat on it. That brisket has some white fat. If you ever see that little fatty stuff, it's either brisket. Sometimes you can get it back in the gut. I don't know if you've seen that. Call it caudal fat that's above the guts. Looks like marshmallow.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Sometimes if you're hitting that high area there, it'll have that waxy white stuff on it. It's usually
Okay.
wetter back there, but towards the front, you've got a waxy gray, whitish film, and it'll be that brisket. You'll also have, generally speaking, some white hair on the ground because it's lower. Um, the deer will react. He'll just run. He'll either run out, stop, look around, doesn't know what's going on, and then take off, or he'll just hit the road and go. And 99% of the time, that deer is alive and well and not going to die. There's a couple arteries up in the neck, but you're going to know it. They're going to die inside 100 yards. Like it's going to
Yeah.
be a
I've seen that
fatal,
happen.
fatal artery, darker blood kind of deal, and you don't even need to look. It'll be spraying. So that would be the front of the deer. When you get to the shoulder, um, it's the call I get more often than anything is the shoulder shot. 6 inches of penetration. Deer ran hard, loud whack when the arrow hits the shoulder blade. 90% of the time that deer is live and well. We can, after this, we can go into the arrow stuff if you want on what I think about that stuff. But so the shoulder shot, 6 inches, they'll bleed for 200-300 yards. It'll be bright red. It'll be easy to follow, and then it'll just stop, and you won't have a deer. I will try to not take that call as much as possible. It's futile. There's not a lot of sense in it unless the deer's leg is broke. There is not much you're going to do with it. You might go find the deer, but he's just going to run, and you're never going to stop him.
You don't have
So
like a junior tracker where you can be like, "Hey, man, you're gonna take that one. I'm gonna go take this guy's shot."
I have out. If people are very insistent on having somebody come out, we might do something like that. But it's generally I'm busy enough where I'm putting that one off, and I'm going to one that's findable. And it's hard to tell guys that.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I'll come and humor them like, I'll come, but like, listen, man, this is not a this is going to be a 10% chance we find the deer kind of deal. So that one, 6, 8, you can even get like close to 10 inches of penetration sometime, depending on the angle, and still not get through the shoulder blade. Sometimes it'll run up. If you've got a quarter in a way, it could run up the meat of that shoulder and come out in front of the shoulder, and it's 12 inches, but no, it didn't. It never went into the cavity of the deer. So it's went into the muscle. Sometimes it can go under the muscle. The shoulder blade attaches to the deer's ribs. There's no bone, right? It's just attached to muscle. Well, you can hit here. You could hit behind the shoulder, hit the ribs, and run up and come out the brisket and never enter the chest cavity of the deer. So a lot of times you'll see a quarter in a way type shot. Entry looks good, and it goes, and you're like, hey, half an arrow went in him. And you'll get there, dog will go run him, and you'll run the deer, and he'll never stop. And you're like, what in the world? And next thing you know, he'll show up 2 weeks later, and he'll have a wound up here too. Then that arrow hits, deflects, and then comes out the brisket instead of entering the deer.
I've done that shot before, and it sucks because it looks like you buried one.
It looks awesome. Sounds good. Looks good.
Yeah. Only reason I killed that deer, I shot him, and it hurt enough where he like limped off, and he was like, "Oh my gosh!" And he kind of stopped, and I shot him again in the guts again. And I was like, if I wouldn't have got him with the second one, wasn't gonna kill him at all.
No.
Afterwards, never had a hole in the cavity at all.
Yeah, that's a very, very common deal. And we can go into the arrow setups that I think do that more often than not. But so you'll go from there, you'll go to their lungs. Sometimes a lot of times you can hit a deer and get 10, 12 inches behind the shoulder. And especially if it's like a little bit higher, you might only hit one lung. 8 times out of 10, that deer lives. One lung deflated.
Really?
Lung blood on the ground. And that deer will heal up and live. And a lot more oftentimes than not, that deer lives. You know what the arrow looks like on a pass through in the lungs. It's going to be like a lighter colored blood, and there'll be bubbles, and there'll be micro bubbles. Not a lot of guys confuse bubbles on the ground with lung bubbles. The bubbles on the ground a lot of times are from blood dripping. If there's a puddle and there's bubbles in it, that's blood dripping and making bubbles. That's not lung blood. And then but on the arrow of a lung shot pass through, there'll be micro little tiny bubbles on there.
So Jake was asking, he's joining up again, but
Sorry, I lost him again.
No, you're good. On that single lung shot that you were talking about, where it's high 8 out of 10 times, he's going to live single lung deflated. Is that what you think is no man's land? That's where people perceive as no man's land?
Probably. I mean, there is, in my opinion, you can shoot right. It's usually high, where that no man's land is, or what they're talking about. I've seen arrows enter high and then come out the lung on the exit, and then that deer live. And it's just because it deflated one lung. Sometimes you can get on those deer early enough and run them with the dog, and they'll bleed out or they'll air out. Like any kind of lung shot, I'm trying to get to as fast as possible, especially if I think it's a single lung. But and some, occasionally you'll get one long and the sucker will run 100 yards and die. I don't know what if you do what I'm doing, you'll see the wildest stuff you ever can imagine. Like deer will do weird things, weird stuff will happen. A deer will be shot in the ass and run 50 yards and die. And you're like, how did that even happen?
I did that before.
Dude, I shot one in front, like in the brisket. In front,
Mhm.
or sorry, I shot him right behind the shoulder. It was a hard quartering shot. Went right out the brisket. Never went in the cavity. The
Mhm.
deer ran and died. And I was like,
Hit
we were
artery.
skinning it, and I was like, what the? And it didn't bleed worth a damn either. And we
Really?
walked up to it, and I was like, how's this thing dead? I thought it was gonna get up and run off. Like
Yeah.
it made
Yeah.
no sense.
There is always extenuating circumstances. Everything I say, take it with a grain of salt. Yeah, it's the majority of the time, but there's a handful of stuff that can't be. I can't prove it. I don't even know how it happens. Occasionally those calls happen, go, well, I've had this happen before. I believe it. Like I'll believe anything when it comes to a wounded deer. Like I really will. Like there's nothing that would surprise me.
The Hunter's Advantage podcast is brought to you by Out on a Limb Manufacturing. I used to be that guy lugging heavy gear down a steep hill after a big buck and regretting it with every single step. But now I use lightweight and dependable gear from Out on a Limb Manufacturing, and it has made a huge difference in my hunting and allows me to get to those hard to reach places. I do a lot of saddle hunting on public land throughout the fall, and a lot of those walks are 1 to 2 miles deep into the mountains. And in those situations, extra weight is not your friend. There's nothing better than walking through the woods and being able to get in any tree that you want. I've been running the Shakar sticks for a long time now, and the Ridge Runner 2.0 platform, and this past year I tried the Flatlander saddle from Out on a Limb as well, and all of that gear is extremely lightweight and comfortable. If you want to support a 100% made in America company, go to outonalimbmfg.com and use code HNTA15 for 15% off at checkout. Once again, that is code HNTA15 for 15% off at outonalimbmfg.com. We trust Out on a Limb products for run and gun hunting anywhere in the country, and we hope that you will too.
So we've got the pass through the lungs, right? Light colored, thinner blood, bubbles on the shaft, micro bubbles on the shaft and fletchings. Liver's next. It's going to be, it depends. It's going to be a dark blood on the arrow and usually dark blood on the ground. And it's like purple. It's not always like that, but if you hit a true liver shot, that arrow will be like painted in purple maroonish blood. And the big telltale for me on a liver shot is if you're looking at the fletchings, you got dark blood all over it, right? Well, the fletchings will have little black spots. And in my opinion, that's liver specks. And it's almost black little dots and they're tiny, 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 tiny. But if you send me a picture of a dark arrow and there's little black spots, all right, it's liver hit. That's also can be a hard track for a dog if it's straight liver, especially high liver. It's not a very you would think it would be a very stinky, easy track, but that is a liver shot in October is probably our hardest track, and that's the one we'll leave in the woods occasionally. So if you get a little bit of gut with it, no big deal. But if you hit straight liver and you can hit him with a big broadhead, high straight liver, and then be alive 16, 18 hours later. Very, very common. Sometimes they will live through a high liver shot I've seen. So, which you would think would be a guaranteed kill shot, but it's not. Not always. More often than not, it's going to die, but it can live. Past that, anything from the liver back to me, I call gut. There's different parts of the gut, stomach, intestines, all that stuff. I just call all that's gut. To me, that's a 99% kill rate, and it's a 99% fine. It puts off the most odor. It's an easy track, but it's going to be something I wait. With a dog, if I'm in Texas, I'm waiting 8 hours, 7, 8 hours minimum with the dog, knowing that when I'm probably going to have to dispatch him when we get there. But he's going to be so sick that he'll bay up and we can dispatch him, and then you'll save your meat and all the good stuff. So Oklahoma, if I get a gut shot, I'm waiting friggin' 12, 15, 16 hours because we can't run him down and shoot him there. So
That makes sense.
which whatever, silly to me. But so that arrow can look like a number of things. Um, it can have waxy fat on it. It can be green. It can be black. It can be purple. It can be, and it doesn't always smell like, oh, it doesn't smell like gut. Well, I see gut on there. Like there's gut on the arrow. Anytime I see, if I'm looking at a fletching, anytime I see something that's not blood, if it's a grainy, like a sand, that's gut. If there's any
Okay.
kind of little, almost looks like grass, like a little, it'll just look tiny little piece of grass on there, that's the stomach most of the time. But like I said, it's not always gonna smell. It's not always gonna be green and nasty. Like sometimes you can have a decently clean arrow that doesn't smell and it be gut shot. Um, but the good news about those is they're easy to find and they always die. Always being 99%. Sometimes I've ever heard wild stuff, but usually they die and they're easy to track. And then of course the hind leg, you either hit the artery or you break the back leg. If you don't, that deer is like the next shot. He's going to be live and well. He'll bleed for 200 yards and it's not mortal. They don't even know they're hit most of the time.
I'm with
Mm.
you. Yeah, it's kind of cool. So you said you were able to dispatch them at night in Texas?
Anytime, yeah.
Really? So let's say it's during archery season. Would you have to use the bow as well, or could you do that with the handgun, or just
308, baby.
yeah? See, that's
It
wild because
was it wasn't like that. I mean, it's always been like that in South Texas. When I first started going up here, I was kind of one of the first people to do it, and it was pretty heavily frowned on for a while. And they were, oh, this is archery only county year round, like Grayson and Colin by me are archery only. Well, it was very frowned upon. They did not like it, and but I had their handbook, and it says stated in the handbook, you dispatch a deer with any ethical means necessary, and as fast as you can.
I mean,
So
I kind of get it from other people's standpoint because there's probably a lot of crooked people out there that I'm gonna go dispatch a buck I shot earlier, and they're just trying to go poach something, or maybe there's a chance that that deer would have survived, and the neighbor gets all upset, or you know I get it, but I think that's probably how it should be. I
yeah,
don't
I
know.
mean, if you think about it, you've injured this animal, whether that be um, a non-mortal wound or a mortal wound. Like, it's you need to do right by the deer and go and try your best to track that deer and dispatch him if you can, and most of the time if they're not mortal, you're not gonna get a shot on that deer. Like I mean, occasionally you might could get lucky and get a pop shot off if you jump the deer up, but I mean that's gonna be so rare. So
I can
like
see that.
for me, I'm not the hunter, so I'm not there. I don't get to keep the deer. I am strictly recovery. So if I were to go shoot a deer at night, well, here's the 25 text messages and me telling them when I'm going to be there and what I do. You know what I mean? It's not. So if somebody were to be a pretend blood tracker, they'd have to come up with some sort of
Yeah.
text or call or something proving that they're going to track a deer, and they're not just running wild deer and shooting them in the ass.
I'll buy a burner phone at Walmart and text
Hey,
myself, "Hey, I'll be there. Sounds great. On my way."
if
Just
you're a dedicated guy, you could probably get away with it.
oh man, is there any bow hunters that shoot deer and you end up having to dispatch them and they're pretty bummed out about it? They're like, "That sucks," but it is what it is.
Not common, but I have had guys that not didn't want me to, and
Really?
I do not let anybody shoot over my dog, and I damn sure ain't gonna let somebody shoot a bow over my dog. So not gonna happen. I just won't take the track, or I don't care. Like I'm not. I tell people that before I come. Hey, and I've had people turn me down. Well, if that's the case, then we don't want you. Fine. I don't care. Well, I'm not. It's not my problem. It's your deer. If you want to do what we can do, and do the best thing possible, I'm going to carry a gun and I'm going to shoot the dog or the deer. You know what I mean? It's just not, I'm no way, shape, or form believe trusting anybody. I don't care who you are shooting over my dog. So, but I had a guy, it was a father and a son 2 years ago, maybe. Um, hunting public. There's some public down here that's like a draw. It's on a lake, and there's some really good deer, and got it on video and everything, man. And it was a really, and it wasn't just like a huge deer, but it was a mature, probably 150-inch deer, 140, 150, but like a mature. You could just they come in chasing the doe. It was cool. Had it all on video. Shoots the sucker right in the guts, and I'm like, hey, awesome. I'll be there this evening. It won't be, y'all haven't pestered him. It will be no issue. I'll come in and shoot him and we'll be good to go. And it's probably a 16-year-old kid. He's like, what? And I said, well, if he's still alive, then I'm going to have to dispatch him. You've wounded him. So then we're going to come in and dispatch him and then you'll have your deer. Well, I don't know that I want to shoot him. I'm like, well, you already tried and you screwed that up. So that's why you're calling me. And that's just how, and he didn't want to do it. And I just didn't go. And I guarantee that deer's out there dead right now, laying. I know he is.
Oh, if
And
it's the difference between taking it home and not, it's like kill it.
that's most people. And then when I talk, like I'm saying what I'm saying, you're nodding your head, like, or most of the time when I tell, hey, this is my dog that I have spent countless hours, money, time away from home. I'm not letting you. I'm not even letting you carry a gun. Like you're not gonna walk behind me with a gun, and you know what I mean. It's just if you don't like it, then I'm just not gonna do it. It's not worth it to me. There's no deer that's gonna be worth my dog dying.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like shooting guns with people that you don't really know. It's like probably not going to do that. First time you get flagged or something, it's like, all right, we're done here.
Yeah, and with me, it's I could show up and it'd be midnight and the dudes are hammered, pissed drunk,
Oh,
and they're running down the trail with that spotlight, and I see all kinds of wild stuff. But I think there was a hunter or a tracker up north last year, or maybe the year before last, that was shot in the back of the leg with a crossbow from the hunter.
oh God.
Like tripped and discharged it into his calf, shot through his calf with a bolt. Like that's just, I'm not doing it. I don't care. I mean, I'm okay with guys carrying a sidearm or something for their own safety, but I'm not carrying a loaded crossbow walking behind me. Not gonna happen.
No, so you alluded to it a couple times when you're talking about the different shots, but what's your kind of general thoughts after tracking probably hundreds of deer on arrow setups?
So for me, and like I said, I'm a big bow hunter too. I go elk hunting every year and whatever. I nerd out on the archery stuff, and I get to see the worst of archery. So in my opinion, guys don't add enough weight to their arrows, and I'm not talking Ranch Fairy 700 grain. I won't go there. It's ridiculous to me. But 450 to 550 and your arrows flying 280 to 300, I think that's the sweet spot with an arrow setup. And then a lot of guys don't tune their bows, and they're shooting a fixed blade broadhead and they got 550 grains, but the arrow's coming out of the bow like this and hits the deer like this instead of like this. You see what I'm saying? And then in that penetration's not there. Your energy's not there, and you're not going to get the penetration with your arrow hitting that deer like this instead of like this. So I think a little bit of weight, and like I said, it's not crazy, but you got to have a little bit added on there, and you want to be flying 280 to 300, 275, and I mean, I'm being broad, but that's always for me. Like I shoot a 510 grain arrow setup with a cut on contact iron wheel broadhead, and I'm shooting at 293 feet per second, and it will blow through both shoulder blades and stick in the dirt on the other side. I've got videos to show it. So the big deal, the biggest problem I run into is light arrows, non-tuned, and shooting them in the shoulder blade and not getting the penetration. And it can be with a fixed blade, and it can be with a expandable. But that's generally what it is that they just buy whatever Cabela's arrow off the shelf. They screw on a broadhead. They don't broadhead tune, and then you end up with these results. Can you get away with it a lot of times? Yeah, all the time. Guys kill deer all the time with untuned bows, untuned arrows, light setups. It happens all the time. But mainly the shoulder blade is my biggest deal. Like I'm not aiming at the shoulder blade, but I also could care less if I have to shoot through the shoulder blade. I'm not worried at all. Like not even the least bit. So it's a small spot, but if you are to screw up, I want to be able to go through there, you know.
Do you see more tracks being with a fixed or an expandable? Do you feel like?
Now, obviously, if I'm shooting into the guts or liver, I want the biggest broadhead on the planet. I want the biggest cut that you can get. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um, but if you're aiming at you're tucking tight in that little golden triangle on the shoulder blade, probably better not shoot a mechanical. I mean, sometimes they'll be fine. Like I said, these are all things that guys will argue till they're blue in the face, and a lot of times they work, but it seems like light expandable to the shoulder blade is not successful ever.
Is that a pretty like frequent call that you get? Is
Every
like
day,
I
every
hit him in the
single day,
shoulder.
every single day. I turn them down 9 times out of 10. I got loud whack. I got 3/4 of my arrow broke off, and the deer ran hard. I got blood for 200 yards, and it stops. Deer's gone. He's live and well. He's fine.
So
That's sorry. That's so sad. They're like, oh, dang.
And I'm nice about it, but I know I'll humor some guys and I'll go do it, you know. But if it's November and it's rut and I've got 5 calls that day, I'm not going to jack with that. I mean, it's not going to happen. And
yeah,
it's just it's very, very, very common. I think it's like I swear every day during archery season I get a shoulder call that I turn down.
you mentioned it a little bit, but do you think just the heavier, anything 600 and up on the arrow setup, you think that's just overkill, or is there something specific you don't like about it?
I think so. I think it's overkill. I don't think you need it, especially if you're just deer hunting. I don't really. I think your gaps get too big when you've got that heavy an arrow. You know, if you're like me, if I go elk hunting, I don't want the arrow to drop 3 feet from 65 to 67. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
that's something we're literally going through right now, because before we were probably like 580, 570, something like that, and then
Mhm.
Big
just,
boy.
I mean, you know how it is. It's like you're hunting public, you're hunting wherever. By the time you range them, they take a couple more steps. You draw back and finally get settled down. They might have, came to or from an extra 5 yards. And heck, we talked to a guy just a couple days ago, and he kind of nerds out on all that, arrow forgiveness, the drop,
Mhm.
velocity, all that stuff. And the charts that he was showing us, it was pretty dramatic, from like 70 yards with a, let's say, a 68-pound bow, 68-pound bow, and like a 29-inch draw. At 70 yards at a 570 grain arrow, it was like 10-inch difference just
Yeah,
from like
that's
5 or
missing an
7 yards.
animal big time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a lot. It's more troublesome on the drop for the longer range stuff. I mean, if you just want to aim at the shoulder and you're not shooting past 40 yards, I mean, cool, shoot 700 grains, whatever. But I don't think it's necessary. And if you're ever in a situation, say you make your 20-yard shot and he runs out there to 70 and he's sitting there and you got an arrow in his gut and you're like, I need to put another arrow in him. I I would want to be able to get there and not be a foot drop difference, you
Yeah.
know,
Right.
from 68 to 70. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I think there's a fine line, and whatever, people have their opinions. I don't care. I just like this year I shot at an elk and I was sitting over a wall and it was 67 yards, and that was the closest I could get where I wasn't going to be in the wind where the thermals were, and had a little bull come in and I drew back. Everything felt as good of a released arrow as I've ever done. And I don't know how, but he had sat there and they were jacking around so long that I was able to kind of calm myself down. And he was quartering away, and I'm here, pop, breaks, arrows, looks beautiful, and the elk just goes, and the arrow went shoom, right beside him. And I was like, that was the most beautiful arrow I've ever seen fly out of this bow. And it was just, well, who knows if it had been half a second sooner, it probably would have smoked him. But yeah, that wasn't no fault to arrow weight or anything. But it's just one of those deals. If you're gonna if you're gonna follow up with a long shot, or you're that guy that's hunting elk and you want to shoot 70 yards, I just think it'd be better you don't have a foot gap between 65 and 67.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's that sweet spot, kind of what you're talking about, somewhere between that 450 to 550. We're not 100% sure where it's at either, but do you think the weight, or do you think the broadhead has more to do with a good arrow setup?
I think if you have a heavier arrow, you're gonna get away with more on your broadhead. I don't think having think if you have, so for me, if I'm shooting a fixed broadhead, it's going to be a cut on contact broadhead. There's not going to be a trocar tip at the top, none of that stuff. It's going to run blade to the tip. I believe that the pressure needed to cut through is way less with a cut on contact. And I like having 4 blades, or at least 2 and 2 bleeders. Like I said, in my opinion, I think that leaves a little bit better blood trail. You're getting the penetration that you want. And as far as expandable goes, so I carry both in my quiver. The expandable I'm going to carry is going to be a slip cam, slide out the back, type blade, not a blade that folds out like this. It's a blade that folds out like that.
Oh,
You know
rear
what I'm saying?
deploy.
Yeah, like a rear deploy, like a Rage or a Sever or something like that. I think broadheads that open from the front cause deflection quite a bit, especially a 3 blade. A lot of times I see those big, like that
Grim Reaper.
Grim Reaper whitetail special.
Yeah.
That's a deflecting son of a gun.
But when it
it's
works,
just,
it freaking knocks a
it's
frisbee
When
gnarly.
it
size
works,
hole out
it
of them.
Yeah, but if that deer is at an angle, and it'll bounce off that ribs like quite often and run up underneath that armpit, like we talked about.
I hit
That's
high
one of
lung with a Grim Reaper whitetail special at like 15 yards one time, and it just looked like somebody took a water hose and was like,
yeah,
and the deer like reacted immediately and dropped and was like, ah, and it just was
yeah.
like, and I was like, I had to like look away. It was so gruesome. I was like, that's disgusting. Like it just started.
Oh, they're
It was
great when they
bad.
work. That's the
Yeah.
same thing with all these broadheads. They're all great when they work, but I mean, it's just I'm just always gonna have a little bit of forgiveness and have a little bit of weight. If I'm shooting close range, I'm shooting a fixed head. And then if I get out past 60, which I've shot at one animal past 60, and that was last year at elk, and I was shooting a Sever, rear deploy type broadhead that I feel like is you get away with a little bit more when you're shooting long range with those expandables. They're just easier. They're not near windy. They, even like I usually broadhead tune with these iron wheels out to 60, not a problem. But past, you're getting past that, I just assume have a bigger cut and aim middle of the body or something. You know what I mean?
If you go pronghorn hunting 68, you'll be like, oh my God, it's so close.
Yeah.
Past, dude, it's like 110, and you're like, oh, they're right there. The plains game messed with me. So we're I'm kind of obsessed with this. We just had a podcast with the scientific archer, and he has this metric called like range forgiveness. And it's like, so with my current setup at 472 grains at 70 yards, the difference between 70 and 76 is still 10 and a half inches.
Yeah.
So it's like with a 433 grain, it's 9.78 inches. So it's a little more forgiving, but you just realize at those longer distances how important getting
You
a
got to
good
be within a
range is.
couple yards. Yeah, I
Yes.
think you better take your time on those, because it's definitely a 3 feet can make it, or 3 yards can make a big difference sometimes.
At
I mean, at that,
100,
Yeah.
Jake, it's from 100 to 106 is 15 inches.
that would see that
You're not
that
even
wouldn't
in the
matter.
realm.
That wouldn't matter anyways, because my
Yeah.
pin's not that steady. So 15 inches, if I hit, that's pure luck, dude.
Yeah, you just got lucky, and it just sat there and
Yeah.
looked at you and took it like a man.
Yeah, my bow could be tuned like to a spec. Arrows could be, I mean, just flying perfect, but at that distance, because I tried it the other day, I lost 5 arrows trying to shoot at like 105, and they skipped off the ground and went into a pasture, and I was like, well, there goes a lot of lighted knocks right there. But yeah, I mean, at that distance, I don't think, at least for me, I wouldn't be able to tell whether it's arrow drop or just being able to hit.
Yeah, you're flirting with even just the animal moving, like that
That's when
elk. He was in the same spot. He just turned. It wasn't like he was still at 67 yards, but he just turned, and I mean, it's all tough.
Dude, Jake, we need to bring Ricky with us antelope hunting. You shoot and miss at 105. You're like, dispatch him.
Drop the dog.
Oh, I'm down. Let's
I'm
do it.
down.
I got the
Man, you
burner phone
better-
ready.
Make sure it's legal wherever you're at.
I guarantee you it's not, but we won't tell anybody. But going back to kind of distance and the blood tracking, does distance kind of play a factor in that? I mean, obviously, someone could make a perfect shot at 10 yards and not be able to find the deer and have to call a tracker. But do you see a lot of people trying to poke out further than they probably should?
A lot of times, either they've ran out of blood and they call me, or they've jumped the deer at 200 yards and then they call me. Like I said, if you're going past 200 yards, you need to rethink your situation. And you can smoke a deer with a small fixed blade broadhead in the heart and not have a drop of blood sometimes. I mean, it happens, and you might need a dog, and a deer went 100 yards. But instead of going and trampling it up, think about that. Think about calling a guy. And I'm honest with people. If somebody sends me a picture or a video and they tell me the deer's reaction, and I look at that, I'm like, dude, that deer's dead. Go find your deer. A reputable guy's not going to just come take your money. Hell, he might say, I think he's dead. Can I come bring my young dog to track it, and I won't charge you? Like, I would do that. But um, well, I think a lot of times people aren't waiting long enough and they're going too far. I the time frame can be. I mean, it is so different. But like I said, with a dog, knowing that I'm probably going to dispatch a deer, I'm waiting 8 hours. So if you're going 8 hours without a dog, you're probably barking up the wrong tree. You're gonna jump the animal, and then you might lose him forever. So if you do not have a dog, I'm thinking 12 hours is a minimum. And a lot of times that sucker is going to be alive. I mean, I find I will come up on gut shot deer at 24 hours that are still alive. Like
Oh, wow.
that happens.
That
It's not
sucks.
uncommon. So I think if you know your shot's bad, you could call it. You can call a tracker. You can call me and, hey, I don't even think I want a dog, but can you tell me what you think about this? Like, a lot of guys are going to answer the phone and give you what they think. Honest guys will. And there are guys out there that don't have the experience and don't know those things. But if you've done your research and you find a handler that's got more than a year tracking under his belt, or finds deer regularly, and you see it and you know it, like, you're gonna know that guy kind of knows what he's talking about, and they're gonna lead you in the right path, I would hope.
Yeah. Do you see, like, from a shot distance standpoint, do you see most of your like the majority of your calls, are they shots that let's say the archer took 30 plus yards shot at a deer? Do you see more of those than 30 and in?
No, it's to me, there is no correlation with fixed blade, expandable, range, angle, like, you name it, it can happen. And there are a few things that I see that are more common than others, but you can hit a deer, like you said, in the ass, and it run 100 yards and be dead, and not bleed, or whatever. You just never really know. Um, there's a lot of things that I think happen, like the 3 blade expandable deflecting. I think that's a pretty common deal for me when I see, and it's usually a lighter setup, and it's a quartering away, quartering two type shot. I think that's pretty common. Or the shoulder shot is the most common, like you call it. I feel like that's super common.
It's funny that you say that, like the shoulder shot is so common, because you hear so many people that are trying to advocate one way or the other that are like, why would I, the shoulder's such a small part of the anatomy. And they're like, why would I build a setup to go through the shoulder if, you know, there's 90% of the deer that I can hit and not worry about it at all. But I think the reality is most people are aiming right there anyways. And the likelihood of going 3 inches left is pretty high.
Yes, it happens. I'm telling you, it's my most frequent call. And for being such a small spot and it being my most frequent type call, that's why I set up for it.
I mean, I get it because I mean you're always taught, okay, shoot right there behind the shoulder. I mean, whether that be with the rifle, I mean, granted, with the rifle, there's a lot of people that aim neck, shoulder, but bow hunting, it's like aim right behind the shoulder, follow the leg up, hit right there. Well, that's what I've done a lot of the times where I'm like trying to hug too much to the shoulder, and then you just end up with a bad shot. If, like, let's say your arrow setup ain't built for going through a shoulder. But here recently, it's like, okay, I want to stay away from the shoulder because you're worried about penetration. And then you kind of get into the guts, which is a mess if you don't have dogs. But I mean, do you think that's just culturally kind of what everybody's been told is just, hey, you try to put it right there behind the shoulder and it just ends up being a shoulder shot?
I think that's a lot of it. And like you said, it doesn't take a few inches and you're in that shoulder blade. I think people commonly, I mean, obviously with a rifle, you're good. And if you got an arrow set up like when I run, you're good. But I think people get that front leg and they run up the front leg and then they kind of, and then they let go a lot of times.
Mhm.
I feel like most people come up and then shoot. Uh, I was always taught, aim at the shoulder when you're growing up, but you're shooting a gun or whatever. So I think that's probably instilled in people get in their lizard brain and they're freaking the F out and like, there's a shoulder and then they let her go, and I think it's super common, super, super common. More so whenever, yeah, it's a small spot. I mean, it can be bigger on some of these deer around here. I mean, uh, it's I mean, you're talking a deer might have this on it, but some of these deer have shoulder blades like this, these bigger animals. And I mean, it seems to be too common for it not to be a thing.
Mhm.
So where do you stand on drones now being introduced versus dogs? I mean, we've only used a drone one time. I think it was because we couldn't find a dog. But what are your general thoughts on using drones?
Uh, I'm pretty negative towards it because obviously I run dogs. I think,
At least you're honest.
I mean, my biggest pet peeve about it is the guys that are doing it have zero experience trailing deer, so they've never had boots on the ground trailing a deer. I'm on this track every inch of it most of the time, every single track. So I see, hear all these things, and I learn all these things. Whereas the drone guy is like, "Oh, you got a shot on him. Here I come," and then you call me, and I'm like, "Oh, you shot him in the shoulder. Don't waste your time." The drone's going, and they're gonna go look, and they're gonna be, "Oh, I found your deer. He's over here, 60 yards, standing here." And it's
Yeah.
like, is it that deer? Like, I feel like I've seen a bunch of videos. Oh, there he is. All right, yep, we found him. He's still alive. Sucks to suck. Now what?
That'll
What
be
are you supposed
300.
to do?
Yeah.
What are you supposed to do? You're gonna call me, and then I'm gonna have to come find it, or dispatch it or whatever.
Yeah.
It's to me, it's and there are situations where a drone would come in and might be faster in an open country. If the deer didn't go 400 or 500 yards, you could pick up in the air and probably see it almost immediately.
Hmm.
But anytime there's tree cover, you're very rendered on what you can see underneath a tree canopy, especially October. So
Yeah.
I think I think an experienced dog would beat a drone 99% of the time. And unless it's just like I said, open country. But like I said, the big deal for me is the experience and knowing what you're talking about instead of just going and flying a drone over a deer that has a blood trail. Like
Well,
especially waiting. Say you've got a gut shot and I come with a drone at 6 hours and I fly it up. Oh, there he is. What good does that do anybody? Like, yeah,
call
he's
him
in that
back in the
same
morning for
spot.
another 300.
Right. And then pray he didn't get pushed last night. Like, it could work out. It's just not very, it's not reliable to me. And it's the talking about another thing that kills me is, oh, we got a 85% success rate. Oh, really? That's really impressive. So you put 85 out of the 100 deer on the tailgate? No, no, no. We found them. We found 85 out of the 100, but we only put 4 of them on the tailgate. What? How is that an 85% success rate? That is you. Success is the deer going home with the hunter, in my opinion. So that stuff kind of irks me. Thank God it's not legal in Texas because it's anybody. It was kind of like uh, duck hunting back in the day. The duck commander came out, and every guy from Plano was up here at Lake Ray Roberts duck hunting after duck commander. Anybody can buy a duck boat and freaking blow a call, put decoys out, right? They don't know what the hell they're doing. It's like the same thing with this drone stuff. It's like, oh, anybody that's got $3,000 can go buy a thermal drone and fly it up and find a hot spot in their dirt. You know, there's just no skill behind it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think I don't mind it. I think it's just another tool, right?
It
And
is,
people kind of
100%.
pick their poison. But I think one of the things when you use a drone that you rob yourself of is getting to watch a dog work.
Oh
And
yeah,
you learn so much about what a deer does. Like one last year, we invited our buddy out to public, comes out, shoots one first morning. Of course, his first we hunted
Yeah,
for like
Dude,
that guy.
5
we were
years.
telling them.
Can't
We
kill a
were
damn
telling
thing.
them. Yeah, it's like, dude, don't expect much. Like, you can go 5 days and sit on the same tree, not see anything. But just wait. One's gonna walk out. And of course, first morning, he's like, "This looks like a pretty good spot. Never been there." Picked it out on the map. Goes and shoots a 130-inch deer, and it's just
That
like
guy. Yeah.
that would happen
Yeah.
to him. Yeah.
But I say all that to say, like, he shoots this deer and he shoots him like 6 inches behind the shoulder, kind of quartering 2, so it exits like at the hip. And this deer, like, we think he's gonna. Are you still there?
I'm listening.
Oh, okay. So this deer, like, we think he's going to like just run through the field and maybe bed up in this tall grass or whatever. Well, he works down this creek, goes up, crosses the road, goes in another creek, goes to the right, and just you learn so much about how they trail and how they move through the landscape when they're hitting stuff. And I remember he gets on the phone with the tracker and he's like, "Man, that guy didn't sound too enthused." I'm like, "What do you mean?" He was like, "He was interrogating me." I'm like, "Yeah, he's trying to get all the information. Like when he's going to come, he's probably got 2 or 3 more tracks lined up." And I remember him asking me and Jake, and he's like, "What's the likelihood we find this deer?" I'm like, "Full pass through?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Went through the middle of the body?" He said, "Yeah." I said, 100%. And he was like, "Really?" I'm like, "Yeah, 100%. And we went out there and we're like just freaking smiling ear to ear. And he's like, "I don't know. I don't know." They let that dog out and like we had to go on the track a couple times, turn around and restart a couple times, but went right up to him in a spot where we would have never found that deer ever.
Right.
We wouldn't even
To
look
be
there.
fair, I think we spent an extra hour and a half, 2 hours just grid. Shouldn't do this, I know, but grid searching because we're like, oh, he has to be around here.
He didn't want to
somewhere.
pay for the dog. So he's like, let's just
Yes.
keep looking, you know?
That's another big mistake made. It's like,
Yeah.
don't make the dog guy your last ditch effort. I mean, obviously it sucks to pay for it, but you're doing right by the deer. And you're gonna have way better results. Grid search is it's not as big a deal for my dog that's older and has been through hundreds of them, but for a younger dog or especially when you're holding on to a leash of a dog and that dog's got to work through a 50-yard area that looks like this from human tracks, and they stepped on blood here and tracked it there and then here and there and there, and then it can make a 30-second minute track into a 3-hour long track because you trampled the piss out of it.
Well, that's what happened to Justin's deer 2 years ago. We had, I don't know, 9 people in there, and of course, yeah, no, literally 9
so
people,
bad, yeah.
and then we called the tracker. Same guys, thank God they're nice people, but they were like, "All right, how many people's been in there?" And we have like a convoy.
All
We're
of
like,
them.
"Dude, everybody's been in here." He was like, "Oh no." Well, fast forward, he did that. You could see the dog just working here, there, get confused, start back over, come here. And then, but after he found like that fresh little piece that I guess no one else has walked on, it 15 seconds, if that.
Uh-huh.
And
Well,
then he was like, "Oh, look, there's a body right here."
He went a
Mhm.
completely wrong direction. Like the dog just went a direction none of us had ever expected. And we're like, "Oh, wow,
Right.
down there." But
Which
do you
is the
remember,
best
Jake?
case scenario.
Yeah, when we walked in, my Uncle Justin had never used a dog before. So we walked in and like where he shot him's over here. And he walks us down the trail to the left, all 11 of us down the blood trail. And he's like, "All right, and which way did he run?" He's like, "Where we just walked." And the tracker was like, like 11 people just walked through there. And they're like, "All right, this is going to take a minute. Everybody get off to the side and get out of our
Yeah,
way."
get out of the way.
Yeah.
Been there, done that, man.
Oh, it was a time, but just watching them work, like you don't want to shoot one in the guts intentionally, but like when someone's like, "Oh, I
No.
don't know about the shot," you're like, I've got an idea." It's really fun. I enjoy watching them.
It's really cool with what they can be done, and and the gut shots. 99%. There are that 1% where that deer will get ran by coyotes to the next county when they're still green, or when they're say a coyote gets on them at 4 hours. That deer's not he's not septic yet. He's not feverish. He's not hurting yet. He's gonna run, and he's gonna run miles. And the coyote's gonna chase him around like you did, trampling, but the coyote's gonna be running a deer like this. So
Mhm.
that's usually if we lose one that's a gut shot, it's coyote driven or pigs. Pigs will push him too.
Oh, really?
No, I've had blood trails that are the whole trail has been rooted, and the pigs are following and get there, and the pigs are eating the deer,
And then you dispatch the pigs.
and they just start whacking pigs.
That's the most Texas blood trail I think I've ever heard in my life.
That was up here on Hagerman Wildlife Refuge. It's a draw hunt over here with some pretty good deer, and it was like, oh, it's got shot. I went like, I'll be there in the morning, and we get there, and I'm like, and Hagerman has probably the worst pig population of anywhere around here. Like it is bad. You can't walk 100 yards in there without jumping pigs. And the entire trail, probably 10 yards wide, was rooted up for 400 yards.
Like I wonder
But,
where he is.
yeah, and it was like the poor dog's like, what if he's going down the trail, but I could see blood on leaves, and the dog was having trouble because there was just pig shit and piss and root and stuff all through there. And I'm like, come on, dude, what are you doing? But I'm like, there's we get there and there's 15 pigs that had been down this trail and were eating the deer when we got there. It was pretty wild. And there was not much more than a head left when we got there too.
Oh, that
Dang.
sucks. Do you
Yeah.
do you have a speaking on tracks, is there I'm sure you've had a bunch of like ones that are memorable, but are there like one or a couple that like uniquely like stick out that are like the crazier ones that you've been on?
I've been on some pretty wild ones, and then some that like I guess mean more than others, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Like whenever you've had got to grind one out that takes forever and ever and ever, and then you find it. Those are really cool. But I mean, what like shoot
Like
me what like
what's the longest or the longest distance or the longest time that you've been on a track?
so it was actually this past season. I get there. Was it a rifle? I think it was a rifle shot, gut shot, and it was guts hanging type deal. Like he said, I saw guts hanging. And I'm like, easy peasy. A gut hanging is the easiest deer to track. Uh, so we get there, they're pissed drunk, and they're walking, doing like we did, like walking me down the trail. Oh, he went this way. I'm like, we just walk. Can y'all just go back to the truck and leave me alone? Yeah. I mean, we can. I'm like, thank you. I went. We went 3 miles on this deer, and I went across. So luckily, the property that the deer where they last saw it on was an older gentleman's property. Well, the old man came out and he wanted to, okay, yeah. Well, he's like, you mind if I go with you? And I'm like, you can go with me. Those guys are staying at the truck. And so the old man with me, he lived in the area forever. So we're going to fence line after fence line. He's calling, hey, Jimmy, I got a deer over here. Yeah, we're good. All right, we're good for the next 300 freaking acres. All right, cool. We get to the next track, same thing. Well, we went, and I don't know because the guys did not push this deer. But that one time they jumped him, and then they said they stopped. And there wasn't any blood to follow, so I know they didn't get very far. And the deer had crossed, but it was a very suburban type area. Like there wasn't. You might have. We might go through a little 100 wide yard piece strip of grass, but there's houses around, and then to next woods, if that makes sense. So they shot it that morning, and I don't know what caused the deer to go that far. When we got into it about a mile, I was like, coyotes. Like, there's no way this isn't a coyote driven deer. Like a lot of those, like I said, get on them. They'll run them. They'll do what Huck's going to do. They're going to run them down and try to stop them and then, kill them or whatever. And we got some spots we'd go, he'd go 500 yards in 10 seconds, just like trotting. And then we get to a spot and he'd be trying to figure it, and then pew, pew. Well, we did that for probably at least 2 hours. And we get to this way, way, way far away, and I'm looking, and that old man's like, "How far have we gone?" I was like, "We're pushing 3 miles," as the deer went. Not like as the crow flies, it wasn't that far, but the deer was doing stuff that coyote-driven deer do, which is like doubling back on their track, or making one big loop and then going through a creek. Or I've seen deer go across a railroad track like this.
Oh,
That's coyote driven. They're trying to throw the dogs off the track. Creeks, ponds, you name it, go into weird stuff. They'll do weird stuff. And this one, the whole time, like that, Kyle just made a figure eight right here. Oh, he doubled down on his trail here. Like deer will go down their trail and then come straight back down that same trail and then break off and then go back to the left. And that deer did that twice towards the end of the track. Well, Huck's just putting on a show. Like there's zero blood. I'm just following him genuinely because I know if he's going somewhere, there's a reason for it.
do you have full confidence in him this whole time? You're like, he's on this.
Yeah, I'll know if he's off of it. It's pretty obvious for me. You would know, but like I can tell by the way he's doing it. If he gets lost, you look at the Garmin and it looks like this, and he's making loops trying to get past the last sense where he lost scent. If he's on track, it's just like this. It's just a trail. It's like a line. He'll hit a little spot, make a couple circles, and then he'll continue on. It's pretty obvious. But this one, we got towards the end, and I'm like, I don't know, they were gonna find this, and it was like I said, it was that gut shot deer, but it's also that coyote driven one, the one of the gut shots that we don't usually, that sometimes we won't find. And we made a couple double backs and went down on this dry creek bank, and there he was, uneaten, dead, like stiff dead. And I don't know why he went that far, honestly, because usually those are always coyote pushed that go that far. So that was the longest one that I've ever been on. We track deer up, up to a mile quite often. Usually push deer from people. Sometimes deer will do it on their own. We won't even push them and they'll do it. They're all deer. Deer have personalities just like we do. There's some deer that want to run, some deer that want to fight. There's some deer that want to travel 3 miles and some that want to go 30 yards. I think it's all different.
Have you ever had one that like you waited 36 hours or 48 hours and they, maybe someone else had tracked it and then you get called in and you end up finding it? How long does scent good on the ground?
It's all weather dependent. It's all wet. I think that one particular one, they had some porch dog on it the day before and then called me at 48 hours. And I was like, dude, there's nothing we can do. He was like, man, I just, it's a deer we've been hunting, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, but like, there's nothing we're going to be able to do. You waited too long and you've already had a dog on it. And I was bored. And I was like, all right, okay.
You're in luck.
Yeah, you're lucky it's December and I'm slowing down. We went and the deer didn't go 500 yards and found it 48 hours, but it was a misty type climate for, I think, those 2 days or maybe the second day. So I think if you, in my opinion, if you shoot a deer and then it rains on top of it, you're good until that rain dries or the dew dries. And then you still might be good, but I think anytime that it gets wet and then dries, you're screwed. Not always, but it makes it a lot harder on the dog. But if you can get there while the dew's on the ground or while it's wet, you're going to be in better conditions than if it had been October. If it was 48 hours and it was 80 degrees and no rain, I mean, there's absolutely no scent there for my dog.
Have you ever last one? Have you ever stories? But these are interesting to me. Have you ever tracked like a like mega giants, like 190 plus 200-inch deer. Have you ever been on any of those? And people like freak out that they thought they were just messed up on the buck of a lifetime and you end up finding it.
I've had it go both ways. So I'll tell you the one that we didn't find. 2 or 3 years ago, buddy was hunting the mega, like 220 plus, and opening day did what he was supposed to do and whacked him right. Well, calls me, he's like, I need you. And I'm like, I was gonna come whether you smoked him or not. Like, I want to see this damn deer. And got there, and it was he shoots a setup like me, and we're not worried about the shoulder. And it was the same thing. He's like, man, it did not sound like shoulder, but the arrow was broken halfway through, and it didn't look like it. It didn't look like it went through and broke off the other side. You know what I mean? It looked like it went in and then backed out or something.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of a weird one of those weird scenarios. And we put the dog down. He went in there 300 pretty quick. Boom, jumps the deer, runs him 600, stops, comes back. Which a lot of times, if a deer will outrun him that fast and like inside 500-600 yards, if a deer will blow your doors off fast, usually they're pretty healthy. The it was just strange the way it happened. I mean, the deer was also battered up with another buck that he was always with, and there was like he said when they left together. So I don't know if they jumped the deer, if Huck jumped them both, and then he took the wrong one, or what happened. It was one of those. It's the curse of the 200. I've had 2 deer that I tracked prior to this last year that were over 200. Couldn't find them. One of them lived, but anyways, long story short, he goes. I'm like the next day. I'm like, hey dude, let's come back out. Like let's give it another shot. Like he's like, nah, he's mad. Like he's about ready to break his bow in half, burn it. He's ready to never deer hunt again, and he's mad at the world. And I feel bad. I'm like, dude, this is terrible. It's like the one deer, that once in a lifetime deer. And he went back a week later and found it like 600 yards away, dead in the woods. And he found the shoulder blade with the iron will cross through the shoulder blade. So
Did he keep it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
it was crunched up. It was crunched up on the sides, but the blade had a nice little cross through it. So so go like kind of venturing back just to the blood trail and deal on a shoulder shot deer. Say the shoulder blades are paddles, right? You shoot through the shoulder blades. That shoulder blade is only lining up with that wound at one point in time, and that's when that point is when the arrow went through it. So if this leg's forward and this leg's back, there is no blood hole. There's no hole for blood to come out. The shoulder blade is blocking the holes. So anytime you get a shoulder, a lot of times you're not going to have a really good blood trail. It might be every 10 yards. It's because it's whenever that hole lines back up again that blood comes out. If that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
it does.
I think that was what had happened. It was a shoulder deer, and I think he was still alive when we got there. We still don't really understand because where he ended up, it was odd. It was one of those deals, and it's the curse of the 200. Well,
the Hunter's Advantage podcast is brought to you by Numa Outdoors. Growing up, I remember waddling around the woods, looking like the Michelin Man and still freezing my butt off. But thanks to Numa Outdoors, those days are over. It's not just about staying warm. When I go out hunting, I need to know that I have gear for every single thing the woods might throw at me, whether it's heat or rain or cold. Numa Outdoors offers quality gear for every pursuit. If you're looking for quality garments backed by a lifetime warranty, make sure to go to numaoutdoors.com and use code HA20 for 20% off at checkout. Whether we're chasing whitetails here in the South or we're headed out west to get after some bugling bulls, we trust Numa Outdoors and we hope you will too.
This past season, I get called for whatever, early October. Hey, I shot a really big deer. Okay, yeah. I mean, we get to. I'm pretty fortunate. We track a lot of big deer, which doesn't really matter for the dog. A deer's a deer, but it's cool to put your hands on big deer.
It's cooler.
Yeah,
it's a lot cooler. So we get there, and It was one of those ones where I was super unsure. It's a crossbow shot. The crossbow bolts are very deceiving compared to arrows. It's like I don't know if they're just faster and they don't hold blood on them as well.
Yeah,
I
you
think
see a
they really,
man behind holding it, and you're like, "What are you doing with this?" Like,
yeah. This one had a doctor's note. And anyways, they go and he's like, deer went this way, and I'm like, put Huck on the ground. Usually he runs around for 5-10 minutes, peeing, pooping, smelling the truck, doing his thing, and then he'll take off. Well, I'm over here talking to him and getting my Garmin ready, deleting the old tracks, getting my gun ready, and then I look down and I'm like, the hell? Oh shit, he's at the highway. And I toned him immediately just because I looked at the map and he was right next to the highway. And I'm like, God dang, well, the highway wasn't 100 yards, 150 yards. So I kind of walk out of that little bottom and I look up and he's sitting at the bar ditch, ass in the air, and I can see his head going like this. I'm like, he's pulling hide. Like he's tugging on the deer. And we go over there and mind you, this was right behind this was like behind the guy's house. And this was like a mowed area where this one portion of this bar ditch was like 3 foot high Johnson grass. Man, a very, very small portion, no bigger than a pickup. And I'm walking up, cars are zooming by, and I walk up and I'm like, you did not tell me he was this big. And he was like, well, I told you he was big. And I was like, pull him up, dude. And we went 218. I
oh
mean, it
my
was
god!
double main beam on one side. He had 15-inch G2s. He was 23 inches wide. I was the easiest, craziest deer I've ever. We broke the 200 mark in about, I think, 90-second track. And it was one of those deals where he was gut shot and didn't bleed at all. And he thought the deer went this way and the deer went that way. And one of those deals was the easiest track ever, but it was also the biggest deer ever.
That's wild. That's wild. Real quick, we know it's kind of getting late, but we talked about the blood trailing dogs. Where does dogs and hogs come into play?
Like for what I do,
Mm-hmm.
or like dogs, like differences.
Like,
Yeah,
do you? When did you start hunting them with hogs? Or sorry, hogs with
Uh,
dogs.
I've always gone with buddies. I've never had my own. Recently I've started this Lighthound page. I'm sure y'all seen or whatever that I was going to tell you about. And it's basically a page just promoting dog work. I don't care if it's rats, squirrels, bears, lions, whatever it was. Well, I was like, man, a bunch of my buddies run hogs and they run deer in the deer season and then hogs after season. And I've got 2 little boys right now that are 4 and 2. And I'm like, man, it'd be cool to in the off season go chase hogs with the dogs or whatever. So this year is the first year that I've had my own dogs that I'm training to trail hogs. And it's totally opposite of deer trailing and it's different dogs. Whole different thing. It's just one of those.
Is
It
it
was
mainly
like,
like temperament based or?
no, it's just they're it's not necessarily temperament, but just you're trailing a live animal instead of like a wounded animal. Like one of the dogs that I'm running right now was a dog that didn't want to trail dead deer. She did not care
He
at
got
all about.
demoted.
Yeah, she didn't. Just like if it was alive, she was fired up, boy. Like we're baying the piss out of it. Everything's hunky dory. But a dead deer, she like run up, see it, man, keep going, like off to go find something alive because this is boring. And well, now she's a hog dog because she likes live animals. So that's one of the, and she's actually pretty damn good at it. So for being a young dog and just now starting this year, and me screwing her up and putting her on deer first. So, but yeah, so the weight, the characteristics of the dog, and genuinely, I mean, like a really good hog dog could probably be a deer tracking dog. Like a, I just think there's a little bit more brains and a little bit. You don't get to train a deer dog like you can a hog dog. Like you only got deer season to train a deer dog unless you go to South Texas and shoot exotics. so the hogs you can trap, train, catch 24/7. So I think it's a little bit easier, in my opinion, to train one, but it's got to have the same kind of characteristics. So it's got to be able to have a nose and be able to have the grit and prey drive to run one down, and bay it or stop it, and then you've got catch dogs that are for catching the pig, that are different than the bay dogs that cast out and find the pig.
I've been one time with a guy who ran dogs on hogs, and um he said he would go pick up a bunch of dogs from the pound because I guess a bunch of his dogs got tore up doing it. And he would, I mean, it looked like a gang of misfit toys. Like he would open up a thing and like 12 dogs of 12 different shapes and sizes would
Yeah,
get in, and he'd
yeah,
just be like slamming on him. He's like, all right, let's go. And then,
yeah.
I mean, when we run up on a pig, those dogs are like, you would think they're 800 pounds, the temperament
Oh
they have.
yeah,
They're like, you come here,
fearless.
mother. Yeah, just
Yeah.
getting ripped up and then just
Oh
keep
yeah.
fighting them. Like a lot of people are like, oh my God, that's abusive. I'm like, you should have saw the smile on that dog's face. Like he was enjoying the crap out of that.
Oh, if y'all go to my Lighthound Instagram page, you can see some of my dogs and then other guys that, collaborate and do videos and people I know. It's funny that people, oh, that's terrible. And I'm like, that dog is living his best life. This is what he was made for. Like his dog eats, breathes, and shits chasing pigs or whatever animal it is, but especially the hog dogs, they can be pretty violent. And then I mean, I will say I've doctored more dogs this year than I ever have just running deer dogs. Not to say that a deer can't get a hold of a dog bad, but those pigs they're pretty violent.
One of the cooler things I've seen is we have a guy that we had on the podcast a few years back. He runs an outfit in Montana and he runs black bears with dogs.
Yeah, yeah.
And sometimes they'll run them into their dens in between the rocks, and
Uh-huh.
you'll see that bear head come out of the den, and as soon as it retracts, you see the dog head go in the den, and they're
Oh
just
yeah.
like going in and out, and there's neither of them is getting each other, but the dog's like, wow, wow, wow. Dude, it's just
They both think that they can kill each other, which the
yeah,
bear can, and the dog most likely can't unless there's a bunch of them. But yeah,
yeah.
you've got to and that's the same with the deer tracking dog. I mean, the way I do it, with being, running some down live, like these dogs they're fearless. You can't have a dog that's scared. You know what I mean? But they've all, you also got to have that, but they also have to be smart enough to have some self-preservation because I have had dogs that had no self-preservation and they don't last very long. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they just have that screw loose and they don't know how to stop. That's gonna get you killed in most dog hunting scenarios.
Every friend group needs that guy. Yeah,
Yep.
you need that.
Yep.
Every
You'll
dog group
dial
needs it.
that number.
They just see red.
Yeah, and bodies start hitting the floor. Man, that's awesome. Well, we really appreciate you doing this, man. This is really fun, and I know that we've kept you up to almost 10:30 on a school night. But we really appreciate you doing this, man.
Yeah, I just if I could close with anything, man, it's just if you're into deer hunting, have a dog handler on your contact list, and maybe even call them before season starts. Like I have a lot of guys that'll call me in September. Hey man, you still tracking? All right, cool. See if I see you. If I hopefully I don't.
Yeah.
But ha- have somebody that you've reached out to and that you've kind of vetted, and somebody that's reputable. Because if the worst thing you can do is, and I get this call all the time, is they call, "Hey, are you a dog tracker?" And then I hear leaves crunching in the background, and I'm like, "Get out of the woods, first of all. Second of all, what's going on? Just if look in your area. There's most places have Facebook pages that have lists of dogs, but even past that, like make sure that that guy is reputable, and it's not going to be, oh, he's got two pictures on his page of dead deer. Like that's not necessarily a reputable tracker. Now he doesn't have to post. There's a bunch of guys that aren't even on social media, but they've got um word of mouth is so strong that they don't need to. You know what I mean? So, just find somebody that's reputable and have them on the list and know that that's your guy. And if your guy calls and he says, "Hey, I can't get you to in the morning," wait till in the morning. Let him get there and do. He's telling you what the best action is. Be patient. Go have a beer. Go to sleep. Go do something, and listen to that guy because if you've done your research and it's a reputable handler, they're gonna give you the best case scenario to find your deer. So that's my 2 cents. Like find somebody, find a reputable guy, talk to him, and also don't be scared to call him, even if you smoke one. Be like, hey man, the deer did this, and I got this and this. Cool, yeah, man. You probably shot him here, probably 200 yards. Call me if you need me. Um, and or that, hey, I'll bring the puppy out and we can find it for free and everybody's happy kind of deal. You know what I mean? A lot of these, like me, and for instance, like I'm always training a younger dog. The guy that lets me come track a couple does in October, and there's 5 people that call me November 1st, and he's one of them. I'm gonna go help him before I help other people because he's helped me. That makes sense. So
Mm-hmm.
being kind to the guys and goes a long ways. And if you find a reputable guy, then he's not gonna steer you wrong. And just have faith and be patient, patient.
Yeah, and tip them good because we a tracker that we used in Southeast Oklahoma that they're telling us during like their busiest times of the year, like, dude, no, we're tracking 18 hours a day. Like that's no
Yeah,
crap from one to the next to the next to the next, and they
it
get
gets
after it.
hard. Yeah, and I mean, I think we tracked 90 deer last year, 86 or something silly. But like, yeah, I'm neglecting my family and all of these things to come help you find your deer that you screwed up on. So it's just be nice and be patient and I think it'll work out for you in the long run.
Yeah. So where's the best place for people to stay connected with you this fall and possibly get a hold of you if they do mess up on a deer?
So I'll shout out my Lighthounds page. I've got a hound page. I post all kinds of content on there. If you like anything dogs, come follow the page. I got some pretty cool shirts and stuff too. But that'll be I'll throw my deer stuff on there here and there, but it's just gonna be other hunters and all kinds of just dog content. As far as the deer tracking, my Instagram's RL Deer Tracking on Instagram, and then Facebook is just Ricky Loftis. If you look it up, I mean, probably a picture of me holding a deer or something. Pretty easy to find. So
Sweet.
yeah, and I've gotten to where I don't have to post a whole bunch anymore because I've got a, a decent reputation and word of mouth. So if I post one deer a week, it's not I found one deer, it was just that deer was 218 inches and I felt like he deserved to post. So
That's a good point.
Yeah. Heck yeah.